We've all seen it, the way we gravitate towards people who treat us poorly, who make us feel belittled or unheard, who consistently disappoint us, yet somehow we just can't seem to let them go. It's like we're drawn to the flame even when we know we'll get burned. But what's really going on here, beneath the surface, is a sinister pattern of attraction based on deep-seated insecurity, a desperate craving for validation and attention that drives us to seek out partners, friends, or even strangers who will treat us with the same disdain we've learned to accept from ourselves. I know this pattern all too well, having seen it play out in my own relationships. The way I'd excuse away my partner's cruel words or justify their absence. The way I'd convince myself that I was just being too sensitive or that I was lucky to have them at all. But the truth is, it's not about being sensitive or lucky. It's about a deep fear of being unwanted or unlovable. In this video, we'll delve into the psyche of this insidious pattern, exploring the root causes and the hidden motivations that drive us to seek out relationships with people who will ultimately hurt us. And I promise you, it's not as straightforward as it seems. There's a level of complexity and nuance to this pattern that's rarely acknowledged or discussed out loud. When we're drawn to others, we often deceive ourselves into believing it's about love or compatibility. But the truth is, it's frequently rooted in our deep-seated insecurities and the desperate desire for validation. We're attracted to those who mirror our unfulfilled longings because they validate our sense of self-worth, no matter how fleeting that feeling may be. But scratch beneath the surface of this so-called attraction, and you'll find a complex web of emotional manipulation, where one person seeks validation and the other, control, perpetuating a vicious cycle of self-deception. At its core, the pattern of attraction we're discussing is less about finding someone to love us, and more about desperately trying to love ourselves. We're trying to fill the void within by seeking external validation. Yet, ironically, we end up further suffocating what little self-love we have. You see, insecurity has a peculiar way of masquerading as courage, making us believe our all-consuming passions and obsessions are driven by love, when in reality, they are simply a reflection of our deep-seated fear of not being lovable or worthy. It's an insidious cycle, where our desire for love and acceptance becomes a toxic craving, causing us to seek comfort in relationships that are nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to quiet the anxious voices within. When we're in a state of insecurity, our sense of self-worth is constantly up for negotiation, and we begin to attract individuals who either validate or exploit this fragile state of being. It's a fundamental human flaw. We convince ourselves that the validation we crave from others will somehow fill the void within, but in reality, it only perpetuates a self-fulfilling cycle of neediness and desperation. The irony is that our attempts to seek validation through romantic relationships often stem from a deep-seated fear of being abandoned, a primal terror that's been conditioned into us through past experiences. In our desperate bid for connection, we often settle for relationships that offer a fleeting sense of reassurance, ignoring the warning signs and red flags that indicate our partner may not be the right fit for us. Our ego, masquerading as a guardian of self-esteem, actually has a much more sinister role to play. It manipulates us into pursuing relationships that give us an illusion of control, rather than facing the uncertainty and vulnerability that true connection requires. When we seek validation from others, it's a cry for help from the depths of our own insecurities, often masked as a desire for connection. But in reality, it's a thinly veiled attempt to alleviate our own feelings of inadequacy. We're drawn to people who reflect our own insecurities, a twisted form of validation that gives us a fleeting sense of control over our own sense of self-worth. The ego's insatiable hunger for validation drives us to seek out relationships that feed its insatiable need for external confirmation, a never-ending cycle of craving for external validation. Insecurity's greatest ally is deception, and we're masters at convincing ourselves that our motivations are genuine, when in reality, we're merely searching for a sense of security in the uncertainty of life. We often mistake attraction for love, but attraction is rarely based on genuine desire. Rather, it's a complex mix of fear, ego, and a desperate need for validation that drives us to seek out relationships that give us a temporary high from the rush of excitement and the promise of connection. Ultimately, it's not the external validation that we're seeking, but rather a reflection of our own self-worth. A twisted attempt to prove to ourselves that we're worthy, lovable, and deserving of love, albeit through the eyes of another. People often claim they're drawn to confidence and strength, but what they're really attracted to is a sense of security they can't find within themselves. This is why insecure individuals are prone to romanticizing dominant partners. They see them as a means of validating their own worth. When someone's self-esteem is deeply rooted in external validation, they'll often go to great lengths to secure a relationship with someone they perceive as powerful or desirable, even if that relationship is toxic. This is not about being drawn to the person itself, but about being drawn to the feeling of security that comes with being with someone who seems more put together. What's often misunderstood as a desire for passion or excitement is actually a desire to escape the emptiness or anxiety that comes with feeling unlovable or unworthy. Insecure individuals will often compromise their own needs and desires in order to maintain a relationship with someone they see as a source of validation and love. The most alluring aspect of a dominant partner is not their charm or charisma, but the control and agency they appear to have over their own lives. Insecure individuals are drawn to this sense of control because it's precisely what they are lacking in their own lives: a sense of direction, purpose, or self-confidence. When we're desperate for connection, we're prone to self-deception. We convince ourselves that the reasons for being with someone are genuine, rather than a desperate attempt to fill a void within ourselves. But the truth is, we're often more attracted to the fantasy of what a relationship could be, rather than the reality of what it actually is. Let's face it, the person we're drawn to often masks a deeper fear of being alone, and this is where the cycle begins, with a desperate desire for validation and connection that stems from their own insecurity. When we're consumed by the need for external validation, we become blind to our own worth and begin to crave the love and attention we're not giving ourselves, effectively sabotaging any genuine connection we might have. The ego's desperate attempt to self-protect can manifest as a need for control in our relationships, where we unconsciously try to manipulate the other person to meet our own emotional needs, essentially turning them into a prop to bolster our own fragile sense of self-worth. But what we often mistake for love or attraction is simply a desperate cry for the security and safety of being loved, not for who we are, but for who we wish we were. Deep down, we're all afraid of being exposed, of being found out as the fragile, flawed individuals we truly are, and so we put on a mask, and the people we're drawn to often do the same, creating an illusion of love and connection that's built on the foundation of our mutual insecurities. The most insidious part of this pattern is not the insecurity itself, but the self-deception that allows us to rationalize our behavior, convincing ourselves that we're in love, when in reality, we're simply addicted to the temporary high of validation and the fleeting sense of control it gives us. As we conclude, remember that recognizing this insidious pattern of attraction is the first step towards breaking free from the cycle of insecurity. We want to hear from you. Take a moment to comment below with your observations on how this pattern has manifested in your own life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the human psyche, empowering you to live a more authentic and liberated life.